Hi and blessed be. This is the Zen Witch with another installment in my Art of Ritual series. And today I'm going to talk about something that I've mentioned a lot. When I'm looking at tarot decks, you'll hear me say something about air and fire, the air and fire confusion or, something misleading there. So I want to talk about that today rather than threatening all the time. I'm going to offer you smoke cleansing first. Okay. Me too. Welcome to the slow zone. I'm making a conscious choice in this about my channel to stay away from trends in video shooting and welcome you to come here and slow down and breathe and take it easy a little bit. Relax. Okay, so today talking about air and fire. And I've been doing a little bit of research because I need to find a statement in print. Now, I've read this a number of times. It's even been mentioned to me when I was, training with one person or another, that there was a purposeful obscuring of information about the elements. The tradition that I come from, there was a heavy emphasis on secrecy, on not sharing information with people unless you really trust them. And there's a damn good reason for that, witches were persecuted and murdered for a long, long time. So there's a reason for that. There are other reasons too, just psychologically, when you think of the words secret and sacred. They're very close to each other. So secret could mean occult, could mean that it's mysterious and it's hidden, and you only find this information in a particular state when you ask the right questions and stuff. Secret also meaning just people keeping that information to themselves. So I know one of the things in initiation is you swear to keep secret the things that you are going to learn. Well, obviously, I'm blowing that to kingdom come. But, we are in a place now that this information needs to be available. It needs to be spread. We need the witches to recognize who they are and step into their power. So busting those secrets. At any rate, part of this purposeful obscuration, and you will run into this when you're reading about tarot. And I actually did a quick look through Barbara Walker's book on the secrets of the tarot to see if she mentions it, but I didn't get a chance to really look. I will find information for you, I promise. But what I've heard is that air and fire were swapped out purposely so that the uninitiated, the undeserving, the whatever, the unprepared, that's the best word there, the unprepared, would not have access to this information and these tools, which you could argue would be like, putting a loaded gun in somebody's hands. So I do understand that, but it seems like it has taken hold. And very early on, when I started doing my own ritual practice, I started experiencing some dissonance about air and fire and the tools of air and fire. So what you're going to hear most often in books about the craft, and especially in tarot decks, is that the tool of air is the athame and the tool of fire is the wand. Now, I take exception to this. And again, you do you. If it makes sense to you that the athame is air and the wand is fire, do that thing. You do that thing. But in my ritual practice, I am at the foundation practical. I have a Virgo Mercury, and it conjuncts Pluto. Pluto's magic. So when I think about magic, I need it to be practical with Mercury in an earth sign, especially in Virgo. I analyze things, and it's got to make sense to me or it doesn't work for me. So here's what makes sense to me. One of these tools is forged in fire. One of these tools, when it's growing, literally makes air. With air and fire, so let's just start with those elements. Air is the intellect. All right, so I talk about integration. So the elements are something that allow us to integrate the facets of ourselves. The elemental wheel allows us to integrate. So we need to understand what each piece of this wheel represents as far as who we are. And the wand represents the intellect, or no, air represents the intellect. We'll go to the tools in a minute. So air is the intellect. Air is inspiration. If you look at my video on the introduction to the elements, I talk about this. It's that first moment of idea. It's the light bulb going on over your head. I have an idea. I have an inspiration. It's communication. It's how you put those ideas out in words. It's how we think our way through things. It's the intellectual process. So and then fire is the will. And I actually had somebody take off on me once. I was doing a lecture about the elements and the elemental wheel, and I was talking about this and my opinion of it. And somebody really took off on me and said that it's, your thoughts are dangerous, that the blade needs to represent your thoughts because your thoughts are dangerous. And, that's the whole problem, and you need to be aware of them and all this kind of stuff. And I said to them, listen, I can stand here and think about choking you, but it's not until I take action on that. It's not until I decide and will to do it and move it into action, which is fire, that it becomes dangerous. So here's where we start with air and fire. And these are called the masculine elements, but I also want to say that I am moving away from gendered language as much as I possibly can. So I'm going to call these the active elements. And the water and earth are the receptive elements. So we have outgoing, incoming. Okay. So the active elements here, we have to look at them together because they're a pair. And when thoughts occur to us, they have that quality of air. They move through our mind, and they can just kind of come and go like a breeze and nothing comes of it. Or they can plant a seed. They can blow through and move us. So if you think about the wind, you can't see the wind, you can't see your thoughts, but you can see the effect that the wind creates, and you can see the effect of your thoughts. But the thoughts, and thoughts can affect our emotional state. We start thinking something, we start going through a storyline, and it kicks up emotions and all of that. But it's not until we move the thought, the inspiration, into the realm of action, of decision. I decide to take action. Decision is an act of the will. That's fire. So we've got the wand, we've got the blade, we've got thoughts that are, and here's another wand. Think about a pencil. Think about a paintbrush. Think about any kind of tool that you would use to create something. Think about a spoon that stirs a pot. Think about an arrow that flies through the air, a spear that flies through the air. Now we're getting more into the weapony things like a blade, but still, this is to me in the realm of air. And thinking about arrows and spears and things like that, if you think about a thought that can take you from one place to another. I'm here and I'm thinking about China, and I can imagine and be there. So that arrow kind of takes me somewhere, the arrow of thought. And it can also take me to a target. It can take me to, here's a goal. Here's a goal that I'm defining. That is in the air realm as well, because we're thinking, we're defining, we're going through thought processes to establish something and what do I want to say? Map out a course of action. Okay. That's not a dangerous thing. Like I said, I can sit here and they're the seeds of it. And that's what inspiration is. It's a seed. It's not the manifestation of something. Manifestation is in the earth realm. So the air is this initial insubstantial, you can't put your hand to it, it's air, can't see it, okay? It's that initial phase. And so we do the mapping and the planning, and we can map and plan, a frickin' terrorist attack. And think about, I mean, who hasn't thought in great detail when they were an angsty teenager about the horrors they were going to commit to teach them a lesson, you know? Um, and so, this is where also we let ourselves off the hook, that if we have horrible thoughts, know that everybody does, and it's not, and horrible thoughts don't make us a horrible person. Um, what takes thought into a whole different realm is action and decision. So then we move into the realm of fire, and fire is light, first of all. So it's when things become visible, and when those thoughts come into the realm of, now I've defined something, and even the most well planned out thing. I have journal after journal with lists of things and plans and things that have never come to fruition because I've never taken action on them. Courses that were planned, events planned, whatever, action was never taken, they never happened. So fire is where we get into the realm of, I decide. I have decided to do something. I have taken a step towards that thing. So it's those first steps. It's action. This is action. This is the active principle. So we have in the four elements beyond spirit. Spirit is the fifth element in the center of the wheel, and that contains everything. But in the four other elements, we have the active, which is air and fire, the receptive, which is water and earth. But then we have the active, which is fire. And then we have the receptive, which is water. Air is the receptive active, and earth is the active receptive. So, and I can go way into that, just give you some things to think about here because I don't want this to be overly long. But when we get to fire, it is the taking of action that begins to make a thing real, that moves us towards that manifestation in the earth element. And so let's think about fire. Fire is differentiates. There's a different aspect to fire than the other elements, and that is this is something that separates us from the rest of the animal kingdom. We are the ones that can make fire and purposely use it. So what else separates us from the rest of the animal kingdom? Well, it's our will. It is our ability to step outside of instinctive behavior and actually literally go against instinctive behavior and work against our own best interests. This is the fire of the gods that Prometheus stole, right? This is the ability to make decisions and go against our nature. Go against our instinctive nature. And this is what separates us from the rest of the animals. So this is a natural thing, all right? And we know that we've seen many creatures, from crows to apes, gorillas and monkeys, using sticks as tools for things. They can use sticks as tools. This one is a whole different thing because it's forged in fire. We're the only animal that can do that. All right. And when you talk about decisions, so in a thame, sorry, I need to shut my alarm off there. So looking at the nature of this tool that is forged in fire, it is double bladed. So an athame is not a single-sided blade like a kitchen knife. An athame is a double-edged blade. So how does this relate? Well, every decision you make has consequences. Your will cuts both ways, all right? We make a decision, we accept the consequences of that decision. So it is something that reminds us of the danger of the will, that we can have all the thoughts in the world, but when we start taking action on those thoughts is when they start to have consequences. Just having a thought has no consequence. It can have an internal consequence of making you feel something, making you waste time, making you, taking you off of other plans or whatever. But thoughts in themselves don't have consequences in the outer world until we take action on them. And that is what the athame represents. And I mean, what has always bugged me is the fact that this is literally made in fire, folks. It takes fire to come up with one of these things. And it takes skill, and it takes will, and it takes honing. Fire is your will, so you want it honed and sharp. Here's another argument I have. And there's a lot of things that are put in place to keep people safe, and I do recognize that as I'm spilling secrets here. And one of the things to keep people safe is I was taught, when you get an athame, if it's sharp, you should actually dull the blade so that you're not dangerous in ritual, so that when you're in ritual and invoking quarters and waving your blade around, you're not going to hurt somebody. Okay? I understand that. We give kindergartners little plastic scissors that they can't cut themselves with, right? But by the time you're moving into magic as an adult, you should be able to take on some responsibility for your magical tools. And I want my will to be sharp, and I want the tool that I use to be an accurate representation. I want it to be a very descriptive symbol. I want it to be an accurate symbol for me. And I want my will to be honed and sharp, which means, and back to fire here with vision, I want to see consequences. I want to be aware. All right. I want to, in the light of day, understand the consequences of my actions. So before I make a decision, I want to make sure that I'm looking at the consequences of it. I want to make sure that I've dragged it out into the light of day and said, what could possibly go wrong with this? What's the worst thing that can happen? Do I choose that? What am I choosing for the highest good? And when I make a decision, I want to follow through with it. I want my will to be, I hate but it is a weapon. There's no two ways about it. It's a tool, and it can be a weapon. And so I want to make sure that the decisions I'm making are constructive. That's a tool. That this is a tool I use to shape things rather than a weapon that I'm causing consequences that maybe others will suffer from, or I myself will suffer from. So there's the double-edged blade as well. Tool, weapon. Right? What is this I'm going to be? So, try to go into the kitchen and be creative. So fire is also creativity. It's your creative expression, the expression of your will. So that fire of passion, so now you have the idea from air and the inspiration, and the fire says, I really want to do this. You get fired up about something and you want to carry it through. So that's when you pick up the tools. And any creative project, it's like you go in the kitchen to cook something. Do it without a knife, I dare you. Do it without a sharp knife. Ouch. And it's actually, in the kitchen, when your blades are dull is when you have the worst chance of cutting yourself, because they're not honed to do their job, and you have to be more forceful and brute about it, and that's when bad things happen. You can see, I was going to say, you can see how many times this athame's been dipped in a wine glass and cleaned off. So you do what you want. I want my instrument to be sharp. I want my athame to be razor sharp. As a matter of fact, we have a claymore up on our wall in the living room. Claymore being a big two-handed broadsword. And I bought it at a Ren fair, and it's a costume sword. So it's dull. And I mean like almost squared off dull, just seriously dull. And it's been up on our wall, and, it's kind of a symbol of Scottish heritage and stuff like that. And I said to my husband in the last year, my husband who's very good at sharpening things, I want that blade sharpened. I want it razor sharp. This is, the sword is an extension. It's just a bigger athame, right? Um, but I want the tools in my home and my magical tools to be functional. So I told him to sharpen it, and by God, that thing is razor sharp now. You better watch yourself. So here's the thing. You have a really sharp athame, you're going to ritual. What's going to happen? You're going to be extra aware and extra careful. I know that I have a tool that can be a weapon in my hand. I know I have a tool that can hurt somebody if I'm careless in my hand. If I am careless with my will, if I am careless with my actions, people can get hurt. So when you go into a ritual with a razor sharp athame, I am going to be seriously mindful about every motion I make with that blade. When your athame is dull, your will and your awareness are dull, and you're going to get careless with them. And why it doesn't matter, I can't hurt anybody anyway. So that to me is an imperfect symbol of what it is supposed to symbolize, and why I really like my blades sharp. So I want you to consider this, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. The difference between the wand and the athame, and if you think that that obscuration was, if that's what it was, or if it really is, the wand should be the tool of fire. I'm going to show you this too. This is a wand that my husband made for me. He's a carver, and we live by the woods. You've heard me talk about the woods a lot. And we have actually a live growing American chestnut tree just inside the woods. And American chestnuts have been wiped out by disease. There's a blight that they got. And so we have this chestnut tree that's probably this big around, which I understand is about the size they are when the blight takes over. We're hoping, I put all kinds of blessings on it. I'm hoping that it can survive. They are now hybridizing with I think a Chinese chestnut that is disease resistant, and hoping to repopulate North America with American chestnuts. And I really hope that that works out. But knowing that we had that chestnut, there was a log down in the woods. And I mean, it's been down a long time, obviously. And Cliff went out and was looking at it and got a piece of wood and brought it in and started the process of identifying this wood. And we finally, after research and talking to people that know the difference, identified it as American chestnut. So he harvested with the permission of the people that own the woods. They're our friends that live up the hill there at the top of the ravine. But he got permission to use the wood and make wands. So he carved this one. And he doesn't have like a set idea when he goes in. He just starts carving and lets the wood tell him which way to make it and how to do things. So this one has this wonderful, wonderful thing. I mean, look at I fell in love with it. I just fell in love with it. So I claimed this one. So this is American chestnut. He has other wands, and, expect to shop at some point. But where I was going when I was talking about that, I don't know. I just wanted to show you that beautiful American chestnut wand. And this beautiful athame, this came from a place called the Eye of the Cat in Los Angeles. My ex-husband got it there for me. And it is a classic black-handled athame, black-handled, double-bladed. I have many athames. I have many wands. I collect. What can I say? So there are my thoughts on air and fire. And this is the beginning of the wheel. The beginning of a creative project starts with air, inspiration, and an idea. Then we move it into the creative realm. How do I create this? What creative energy needs to go into this? What actions need to be taken in order to begin bringing my idea to fruition? So now when you hear me fuss when I'm reviewing a deck about, yes, wands are fire, or staves or rods, or whatever they are fire, and blades are air, now you know why that causes me some dissonance. There are a few decks that get it the way I like it, and I will certainly mention those when I'm reviewing them. At any rate, this was longer than I imagined it was going to be, but It's two elements in one. So again, let me know what you think. What is your opinion? Does this work for you? How, if it doesn't, how does the other way work for you? How does a blade being air and a wand being fire work for you? And I will also say that the athame is, what I go to when it is an act of will. The wand is what I go to when it is an act of ideas. So, and I'm trying to come up with examples for that right now, and I can't. But I will add this as well about the athame, because I have an argument about this as well. I was told when I was trained that you only ever use the athame to physically cut one thing, and that is a hand fasting cake. That you never, ever, 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 ever use your athame to physically cut anything. And the warning was so much that it was, even if you do, it will cut you. It will come back to cut you. So, there you have people that are already assuming your athame is going to be sharp. Even if it's dull, you could manage to get it through a hand fasting cake unless it was a horrible cake. But I disagree with that as well. This is a magical tool. It is used for energy working. Let's say you were hand fasted with someone and then you got a divorce. And we need a hand loosing ceremony for that. But when two people are going through a divorce, it's a tall order to ask them to engage in a ritual together. So don't know that would ever happen except for extremely evolved couples that are dissolving their relationship. But you have a hand fasting cord that is a blood tie. It's a symbol of it's a symbolic blood tie that you are creating between two people who are not blood related. They are forging a family bond with each other. That's what the red cord symbolizes, is a blood tie. And so you get divorced from that person. Why would you not cut that knot with your athame? You're severing that energetic connection. Why would you not use an athame to cut that cord? For candle magic, I've used it for candle magic sometimes to carve things into a candle, because this is an extension of my will. And when you use an athame, you feel, that fire energy running down your hand and into the blade. So this becomes an extension, and any magical working that I'm doing. So I would say you don't use it to, whittle. You don't use it to cut your thread when you're sewing, pot holders. I don't know. But if you're doing knot magic and you're tying and you need to cut something off and sever the connection, use your athame. It's a magical tool. It's going to sever the energetic connection as well as the physical connection. So, but again, you got to think, what consequence will this have? And here's a thing that I might have offered you before, but it's an excellent thing when you're trying to make a decision about something and you're really stuck as to what the way to go is. My lawyer friend taught me this. It's a great lawyer trick. It's a great reframe. So it's a way to look at something in a different way. And the trick is, assume whatever decision you make is going to be the wrong one, and then decide which mistake you would rather make. And it really reframes an issue to the consequences, to focusing on the consequences rather than just the decision. Because the decision tends to be, what do I want? What do I want? What's best for me? What's, the best thing to do for me? And the trick, the which mistake would you rather make trick, puts your focus on the consequences. So it really is an excellent thing when you're getting ready to do spell work, when you're getting ready to take action. It's a wonderful filter to run it through to make sure that you are mindful of the consequences of your decision. I think that's all I have to say on this. I could be wrong. I could have volumes more to say. But I'm going to leave it at this. This is a half an hour. I will pop this onto the Art of Ritual playlist. Please let me know what you thought below. Many more to come. I'm going to be concentrating on this playlist. So a lot more. Once again, I thank you for hanging out with me. This is my joy, sharing what I know with you. And I hope to see you again next time. Please like and subscribe and share and set your notifications. And I will see you again very, very soon. This has been the Zen Witch. Blessed be.